Lesson 110 is about operations in scientific notation. Operations mean that you're going to either add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Of course, there's other operations in math that we use on some other types of skills, but in scientific notation, you're going to use one of these four operations. Example 1, the mass of the Earth is 5.97 times 10 to the 24th kilograms. The mass of the Moon is 7.35 times 10 to the 22nd kilograms. How much greater is the mass of the Earth than that of the Moon? Well, we can look at this little key phrase, how much greater? And we can use that to decide what operation we need to do. We are comparing two numbers, and it's asking how much greater. So this is indicating that we are going to subtract. Now, if it said something like how many times greater, if it compared and used the word times, then that is almost always going to be dividing. But this one doesn't use the word times, it just compares two numbers, so we're going to subtract them. So I'm going to start with subtracting. I'm going to say we're going to subtract the mass of the Earth minus the mass of the Moon, because it says how much greater is the mass of the Earth than subtract the Moon. And we can take these two numbers, and I'm going to write them in a parenthesis because I'm going to do this using a calculator. And that's the simplest way to work out the scientific notation problems. You're allowed to do that, so we will use it in class. So I'm going to take the Earth, and I'm going to say that is 5.97 times 10 to the 24th in a parenthesis, minus the Moon in a parenthesis is 7.35 times 10 to the 22nd. And at this point, I'm going to go to a calculator and get the answer. So we turn on the calculator and we type in our calculator, open parentheses, 5.97 times 10. And then to raise the power, we go to that little caret symbol. It looks like an upside down V. Type 24, close your parenthesis, subtract, then open parenthesis, 7.35 times 10. Raising the power, we'll use that caret symbol again to the 22nd. Close your parenthesis and hit enter. Notice it gives you a number in scientific notation. And so we're going to go ahead and write that number down. It is 5.8965. Notice in very small font it has a times 10, and then it raises it to the 24th power, and this is in kilograms. Example 2. A bridge is made up of 27 segments that each span a length of 4.8 times 10 squared feet. What is the total length of the bridge? So we've got to figure out an entire bridge length. We know there's 27 different segments, and that each segment or each span a length of 4.8 times 10 squared feet. So there's 27 of these. So I might think of it this way. I might think there's 27 segments of 4.8 times 10 squared feet. And we've got to think of what operation we would need to figure this out. Well, it looks like we're repeating 4.8 times 10 squared 27 times. In other words, we're saying 27 times 4.8 times 10 squared. So we figured out what we're going to do. So we start with multiplying 27 times, open parenthesis, 4.8 times 10, and then we can use that caret button to raise it to a power of 2, close your parenthesis, enter. We get 12,960, but I'd like it in scientific notation, so I'm going to change it here. You saw that second Sci English button, change it to Sci for scientific notation, and it changes it to 1.296 times 10 to the 4th power. So we get the answer 1.296 times 10 to the 4th power. Example 3, we have a garden snail and a cheetah, and we've got their top speed given. And our problem asks how many times greater is the speed of the cheetah than the garden snail. Now this phrase, how many times greater, we kind of talked about a little earlier. It's comparing, so we're looking for a comparison between the two numbers that's either subtracting or dividing. But since it uses the word times, it's dealing with comparing multiples. So it's dividing. So this is a division problem, comparing the speed of the cheetah to the speed of a garden snail. So we are going to take the cheetah and divide by the speed of the snail. And I will note here this top speed, I should have noted earlier, but it's in miles per hour. And so we have the speed of a cheetah is 7.0 times 10 to the 1st power. So that's really 7 times 10, which is about 70 miles per hour, divided by the speed of a snail, which is 3.0 times 10 to the negative 2nd power. So that's going to be 0.03 miles per hour, so very slow. And we can go to our calculator and plug this in. Okay, so we're going to plug in parenthesis 7.0 times 10, caret symbol, raised to the 1st power, close your parenthesis, divided by, open parenthesis, 3.0 times 10, caret symbol, to the negative 2nd power. Close the parenthesis and hit enter. Notice that it comes out to 2.3 repeating times 10 to the 3rd power. And we can write that in our answer. Usually you won't see a repeating decimal in an answer, but this one does. That's okay. We get 2.3 repeating times 10 to the 3rd power. So that's the number of times greater the cheetah is as far as its speed than the garden snail.